Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to some Full Metal Demon Muramasa. We just got to see Kageaki's dad, who, if you weren't very clever, may not have caught it, but the commissioner is his dad, get killed by an unknown Musha, whom we know is Otori, who killed him out of spite for Kageaki, probably. I mean, we can just assume it's one of his random murders, but it could have been one of his actual targets in the past. Honestly, the man should have a list of people who want his head like a mile long, considering he randomly murders people for actually no reason. But you know, you can just kill their whole family, that works too. Who knows what shenanigans he's gotten up to with his abysmal management of his curse. Guy didn't even try once. So why? Why am I allowed to live while good men pay the price for my crimes? Wasn't that guy literally justifying your random murders? I'd say he's just as bad. If you're like, oh man, my friend's a serial killer. He kills all sorts of random people basically for no reason. If you're on the street, he might end up killing you too. But he's cool. In fact, I should encourage him and in an official capacity make sure he's pardoned for it to enable him. Like, yeah, I can see him being considered as on the darker side, even if it's for a good cause. That's pretty sketchy. Like, you can see why someone would want him dead, right? You might even agree with the cause he's going for, but you can still see why people want him dead. Ginsego kills hundreds of people all the time, so stopping it or stopping duplicate Ginsegos is generally efficient, but it doesn't mean people have to be happy about it. Is there no justice in this world? I believe in the last route you killed justice. Please someone tell me, how do I make it stop? What will it take to end the horror to ensure he's the last? Absolute power. Is suicide the only answer? Is a merciful death and easy death truly to be my fate? But what about my punishment? I'm supposed to suffer. Look at the blood on my hands. Does this not earn me torment? If not, if there's no force in this world that can destroy me for my sins, well, what hope is there? What hope for the good? For those who struggle to be kind and just. Their lives had meaning and worth, and I ended at stealing their future. Someone, anyone, please. Don't their good mean nothing? Where am I? Dokoda, yeah, indeed. Where am I? Where is here? After your report?
Hi.
It is, sir. So the prince escaped?
ご期待に添えず申し訳ありません。処分は謹んでお受けいたします。
Afraid so. I apologize, sir. I failed to complete the mission.
どうかお嬢様、いえ、大鳥隊をお責めにならないでくださいませ、中佐殿。
Please don't be so hard on her, sir.
この老いぼれが至らなんだための不始末。
It's entirely my fault his highness got away.
ええ、実はそうなんです。
Oh, she's right, you know.
というのは真っ赤な嘘だっぴょー。中佐殿、召喚は上官の命令に従っただけであります。責任の所在をお間違えなきよ。
Let it be known, sir, that I retract my previous statement and also make a formal declaration of no backsies. I was merely following orders like a good little soldier. Any blame falls squarely on the shoulders of my dear mistress.
あなたそれでも私の従者？
You're just gonna sell me out like that?
言えたぎりじゃねえだろ、腐れみかん。
Like you're one to talk, you overripe cantaloupe.
まあいいさ。どうしても抹殺しておく必要があったってわけじゃない。
Not like we needed him dead. True. I don't see why they need him dead.
ひとまず表舞台から退散させられたんならそれで十分だ。しばらくの間は余計なちょっかいもやめておとなしくしているだろう。
If he's gone to ground, so much the better. He'll need time to reestablish himself before he can get up to any more foolishness.
その間に型
By
は
the time
つ
he's
く
done that,
す
it'll
べ
all
て
be over. Oh,
ご苦労だった。下がって休んでくれ。
good work, Captain. Take a few days
期
off.
間の次の配置は追って伝える。
I'll let you know when I have your next mission.
はい
Yes.
失礼いたします
Thanks, sir.
逃げたにしろ逃がしたにしろ消えたやつのことはどうでもいい。死んだやつも。
I expected she might let him go, or maybe she didn't. It doesn't matter, as long as the prince and his men are out of commission.
だが捕虜か。
But I wasn't expecting a prisoner.
港影焼き。さてね。
Minato Kageyaki, what do we do with you? Wait, she captured him? She captured Kageyaki, or was this part of her plan? Or is this part of a plan they made together? I thought he was tilted and then the scene changed. The room is clean, white, and very small, perhaps 3 meters to a side, though the lack of furniture makes it seem somewhat larger. Aside from the cot upon which I awoke, a single chair and a few necessities are the only items of note. The walls, I realized shortly, are windowless, which is the largest contributing factor to the room's oppressive air. The ventilation grill near the ceiling might be keeping me alive, but its psychological benefits are dubious. My sluggish brain determines that the first order of business is to get out into the open air. I rise from the bed and move toward the door, only to make it a few steps before I stumble and nearly fall. My limbs feel like they belong to someone else, and carefully, like a puppeteer, I walk myself to the door. I grab the knob and turn. Again, this time I try pushing. Alright, so my door is locked from the outside. I'm a prisoner. Or there's another possibility. This could be a hospital. The door might be locked for my own safety and that of the other patients. In which case, the first thing I should do is let someone know I'm awake.
失礼。どなたかおられませ
Pardon,
ん
is
か。
anyone there?
もし。
Pardon.
Be quiet.
Be quiet.
OK。
Prisoner it is. I still have to wonder at the voice of my jailer. He was speaking English, no mistaking it, and that suggests
俺は進駐軍に拘束されているの
I'm
か。
being held by GHQ. Yep. It doesn't come entirely as a surprise. I take it as a sign that my memory is full. Far too little time has passed to forget their trap on Enoshima. That plan of theirs failed due to Ginsego's apocalyptic intervention, but of course, they wouldn't have given up trying to remove me from the picture. Not if it was worth the first attempt. Question is, why now? And why just capture you instead of just killing you? I can't imagine. No, wait. The attack on the prince must have been GHQ, which means that so was he. Before the onslaught of pain splits my head like a melon, I force my thoughts onto a different path. Muramasa, where is she? Not here, I know, without looking. It'd be absurd to lock a Musha in the same room as his Tsurugi.
村正。
Muramasa? No response.
村正。
Muramasa? Still nothing. Either she can't hear me, or she can, but can't respond. But this has never happened before, and the experience isn't a pleasant one. When a Tsurugi and their pilot form a single whole on Musha, as a rule, nothing can break this bond or prevent the two from communicating even over a great distance. And one of them's mechanical, so they shouldn't ever fall asleep. The only explanation for Muramasa's silence, the only thing that could keep her from responding, is if she's no longer able to do so. Or if she's been sealed in an isolation box. I can't think of a reason GHQ would go through the trouble of keeping my Tsurugi alive. I am, after all, their enemy. But the fact that I didn't succumb to the tetrodotoxin suggests she survived at least long enough to purge my body of the poison. In any case, I have no way of ascertaining the truth at present. My only choice is to wait and see what my captors have in store. Not much of a choice at all, but so be it. Exhaustion still lies deep in my bones, so I return to the cot and stretch myself out, resolved to recover as much of my strength as I can for whatever lies ahead. That's right. We were in fact, for anyone who forgot, tetrodotoxin is actually pufferfish venom. So we did survive. We did survive that encounter, at least. We're not dead. But yeah, someone coated their weapon in pufferfish venom. What a choice. Welfare Ishtar grew on you, and recently she all round did. Welfare Ishtar is fun. She's got a fun NP. I wish she had a battery, because it feels awkward sometimes trying to get her to work. Oh, darling, how's the prison life treating you? Oh, beautiful. Wait, why is Kaguya...
タイ殿。
Captain?
これは港様。店長からご出現とは、さすが一筋縄ではいかぬお方でございますな。ほほほ。
Ah, the ceiling. That's the last place I'd have looked. Well played, sir. Yes, we did read Danganronpa. It was good fun. Read all 3 of the main games. Read all 3 of the main games. Ibuki's probably best girl. And the second one's probably the best because it has the best characters in it. Ah, the ceiling. The last place I'd have looked. Well played, sir.
いや、何やってんだよ、あんた。
Now what the hell are you doing up here? I'm guessing he's working out.
は、休んでいようと思ったのですが、どうにも落ち着かず。
My apologies. I was
つい
feeling
普段の拘
restless.
置所生活のように
Thought I'd
体を動かして
exercise
しまっ
like I
てい
do
ま
in
し
my
た。
usual cell. He's upside down. He's just working out. Called it.
普段の
Your usual cell?
お気になさらず。
Forget I said that.
気になりますわやあなたは体を動かしたくなると天井からぶら下がるんですか普段から
That's not happening. It's a habit of yours. You hang out from the rafters whenever you're feeling
血
restless.
行が活発になるせいか、健
I've
康に
been
良いよう
told
です。
it promotes healthy blood flow.
んなことは聞いてません
Nobody cares about your blood flow.
足と腹筋の鍛錬にもなるのです
It's
が、
also a good way to strengthen your core.
地球人と会話している気がしない
It's like I'm talking to an alien. Science.
落ち着かれませ、お嬢様。たとえ天井から人間が垂れ下がってきても取り乱してはならないと、お父様が口を酸っぱくしておっしゃっておられたのをお忘れですか。
The text box is interesting because they do move it as appropriate. I do like how they do that. It's kind of nice when there's like a big picture on the left side, they kind of just shunt the whole box over to the right side. And vice versa. They don't fully do like their usual ADV or I forget what the other version's called. Yes, remain calm. Remember what your father said time and again. Even when you see a man hanging from the ceiling, never lose your composure. Her father must have been a great sage to have revealed that wisdom to her at a young age.
忘れる以前にそんなピンポイントの教育は受けてません
His lessons were never that specific.
What's happening?
Captain, is everything all...
My God!
Oh my god! You must be my jailer.
扉の外におられた方ですか。宣告はお騒がせしました。
Sorry for disturbing you earlier.
いい
Oh,
え
right, the
今
jailer.
も騒がせておりますよ。っていうかそろそろ降りろよ、怪奇コウモリ男。
You're disturbing him now. Get down from there, sir. What are you, the bloody Batman? Wait, a reference to Batman? Actually? I wasn't expecting a direct Batman reference here, but here we are. We get Toho in 7th expansion's work, and we get DC stuff in this apparently. You get a redeem for a gifted sub. I don't know, do you?
I
いらぬ辛労をかけてしまったようで。
I apologize for any distress I caused you.
いえ かなりのハートブレイクショットではありましたけど。
That's quite alright, though it was a bit of a heartbreak shot, I must say.
なんか豪快に負けましたな、お嬢様。人間衝撃力勝負とかそんなものに。
It's quite the setback, mistress. He's beating you in ridiculous quirks of character.
そうね。ペナルティエリアの反則で PK もらってさあ1点と思ったところに、サードの隠し球ランナーアウト、試合終了。採点の結果、2対1で判定負けって感じではあったかしら。
What? What did I just read? I know. I feel like we were down 1 run in extra innings when his third baseman got a penalty kick and threw the 8th ball into a corner pocket for a touchdown. No, those are the wrong sports. That sports analogy is too long. Too long. Please stop. We got baseball, soccer, and pool and football. Damn, we got too many sports. Someone stop this lady.
次からはお嬢様も量子論に基づいて壁をすり抜けつつ登場するくらいの芸をなさらなくてはいけませんな。
Next time you'll have to show up by phasing through a wall if you want to have any hope of making an impact.
生きにくい世の中ね。
I didn't have to wait long before receiving my first visitors, and that would be these two is no surprise. This is after all a GHQ facility and they serve GHQ. Well, let's figure out their purpose. Captain.
Hi?
Yeah?
まず自分から質問をしてもよろしいか。
If you don't mind, I have a few questions.
どうぞ。
By all means. She seems willing enough. After a moment's consideration, I begin with the most pressing matter at hand.
毎度の宮殿下はいかがされましたか。
Do you know what happened to His Highness?
県庁寺からは無事に脱出されたようです。ご遺体は見つかりませんでしたし。
I heard he managed to escape the attack. They haven't found his body, so it seems likely.
今頃はどこかに潜伏して様子を伺っておられるのではないかしら。
I suspect he's in hiding somewhere licking his wounds.
そうですか。
I see. I exhale, the weight on my shoulders slightly less. Well, his situation can hardly be said to have improved. The prince is cunning and resourceful. If he survived, he'll find a way to keep surviving. I can do nothing for him now. It's time to look to my own circumstances. And for anyone who might be new to this series, he doesn't know it, but the person who was doing all the attacking at the place he's asking about was Otori. Was Otori. So when she's like, I don't know, he probably escaped, she's like, I didn't bother killing him. What she really means is, I didn't bother killing him, but you don't need to know that. Yeah, but Brave Shine's a really good song. You can listen to that a lot. I already went out of my way to have that on my playlist, as it's a really good song. I listened to it so many times, it's no longer exciting. But I've probably listened to it like 100+ times. But I don't hate that song. I mean, I don't hate Phantom Joke either. It's just not super exciting. Maybe if I listen to it enough, I'll come to like it. Well, I can't do anything for him. It's time to look to my own circumstances.
自分はどうしてここに。
May I ask why I'm here?
まず
Or first,
ここはどこ
where
で
is
しょうか。
here?
横浜です。
Yokohama. Her answer, despite its brevity, tells me all I need to know. Yokohama, I'm being held at GHQ's home base?
では
Alright, why am I here?
なぜ自分は県庁地で倒れていたと思うのですか。
The last thing I remember is losing consciousness at Kenchoji.
ええ。それをサヨが拾って車でここまでお連れしたのです。ね。
Yeah, after Sayo found you, we brought you here in our car. Isn't that right, Sayo?
は
It is indeed.
それは
You.
お手数をかけまして。
Thank you for going to the trouble.
いえいえ。
No trouble at all, sir. The old woman's reply has the air of a shrug, suggesting she realizes how I might not be certain whether thanks are truly in order.
そうか。
Tell him you gifted him an amaranth sub again? Alright. So, the picture begins to take shape. For reasons unknown, GHQ tried to assassinate the prince. Captain Otori called to warn me, then was present during the assault on Kenchoji, where she found me unconscious. brought me back to Yokohama and locked me in this cell. Is that it?
村正、
What a Muramasa, my
自
Tsurugi.
分の剣は
無論一緒にお連れしました。
It's here, of
今は
course.
別室でお休みでございますよ。
Resting in its own private room.
残念ながら合わせて差し上げるわけには参りませんが。
I'm afraid we can't let you see each other just yet.
と
I
は
see.
合わせられない。
May I ask why not? For the first time, silence greets my question, but the look on the captain's face is not that of someone who's looking for an answer. Rather, she seems to be savoring this silence, this pause before I reach the answer myself. Not that I need any time to do so. There's only one reason to separate me from my Tsurugi, so I can't use it. Of course, you have an illegal super weapon. Of course, you're not gonna get a run around with that thing. Like, oh yes, I'm just running around with this WMD in my back pocket. Oh yeah. Where is it, by the way, guys? Like, I'm in jail. I'm in a jail cell. I mean, I guess you just ask anyway. There's always the chance that they're like, yeah, we didn't have any other beds for you to lie on. And there's only one reason for her to fear my using it, because she's my enemy. Though she was not at Kenshoji to support me or the prince, but to carry out her duty to GHQ. Given her behavior prior to the attack, as well as the attempt by GHQ's Major Garget to eliminate her using the Enoshima affair, it seems unlikely her decision was motivated by loyalty. But whatever the case, the fact is this time she chose a position which put her in conflict with mine. Her warning, which would appear at odds with GHQ's purpose, might have been intended to draw me out so I could be disposed of together with my patrons. It makes perfect sense. The only question now is why GHQ went after the prince in the first place, and why maybe they didn't kill you like they did all the other people? And of course, one more thing.
大鳥大尉殿、
Captain.
はい。
Darling?
現在自分が生存を許されてい
Yeah.
る理由
Why
は
am
何
I
でしょう
still
か。
alive?
心臓が動いているからではありませんの？
Why, because your heart's still beating, dear. She doesn't even try to hide the mockery in her voice, but unperturbed I continue.
停止させることはたやすかったはずです。
You could have stopped it at your leisure.
そうかしら。
Could I?
自分のこめかみに銃口を押し当て、引き金にかけた指へ 100g ほどの力を与えるだけで。
100 grams of pressure applied to your trigger would have done the job nicely. I regained consciousness barely an hour ago. Even if she preferred a less expedient method, she's had plenty of time to do as she pleased. The captain just laughs deep in her throat, a sound like fingers tapping on a drum.
そうですね。
Would have been so easy, wouldn't it? Yes.
けれど私にもいろいろ都合というものがありますの
Well,。you see, I couldn't. For a number of very good reasons, actually. Why
よろ
can't
しければ
Might she be so
お
kind
聞
as
か
to
せ願いたい。
share them with me?
よろしくってよ。
Certainly. She smiles
ま
sweetly.
ず一つには影明様を生かして連れてきてほしいと頼まれていたこと。
Well, first I was asked to bring you back alive.
頼まれた。
Asked?
GHQ の中の人間に
By someone within
Yes.
GHQ?
え？
Yes.
ど
Who
な
might
たでしょ
that
う。
be? I haven't a clue except for the captain. There's no one in GHQ I might label as an acquaintance, much less a friend, nor have I recently helped any mysterious foreigners who might have been GHQ agents undercover. There's no reason anyone here should care about my safety.
ウォルフ教授と呼ばれている方です。NRS で顧問をしていらっしゃる。ご存知ありません？
Professor Wolf, a civilian contractor head of the Department of Natural Resources. You're not acquainted?
いえ、
No? Wolf? That's a German name. Is it now?
お知り合いではないんです
That's
の
odd.？
あの方、
He
どうし
certainly
て
knows
影
you.
明様の身を気遣われたのかしら。
Who is Wolf? I don't think we know a Wolf. Maybe he's someone in disguise? So who is this Wolf?
学者という人種はいささか常人の理解からはみ出した部分を往々にしてお持ちですので、
You know
ま
how academics are
港
mistress.
様に関する報告の中に何か教授の興味を刺激する部分でもあったのでは？
The reasons are not for us to grasp. In all likelihood, he saw something in your reports that piqued his interest.
なのかしらね。性的興味とかでなければ良いのですけど。
True, I just hope the interest isn't sexual. What?
それは自分も死に物狂いで困ります。
I too hope fervently that's not the case. What?
いずれ教授とは面会の場が設けられるはずですから、真実はその時、直にお確かめなさいまし。
You can ask him yourself when you meet him. I believe that's on the agenda. Moving on. I have another reason for keeping you alive.
理由はもう一つ。こちらが私の個人的事情。
This one's what you might call personal.
は、
I see. Her smile deepens and I behold what it contains. One will, one emotion. Pure, unfettered.
あ
Certainty settles over me like a warm blanket. At last, there's no room to doubt.
あ、俺はこの人に
This woman hates me.
憎まれている。
Pure, unfettered malice.
影明様、あなたをやすやすと死なせたくはなかったから。
You see, dear, I couldn't let you off so easily. What was it that made her hate him? Was it the part where he killed a couple random kids? A few times? Was it the part where he killed his own teammates? I don't think she cares about his mother. Who does she care about? Like water from a spring, it rises, cold, clear, and inexhaustible. Oh, I guess it's my time to leave. We'll find out next time, I assume. She went through the extra steps to warn Yuhi, so you say Yuhi? The sound of a bell striking 4 times calls my attention to a corner of the room, where I only just now noticed the grand clock standing there. He gets a big-ass clock in his room. That's a step up from your average jail cell. What could be the purpose for such an incongruent embellishment? To underscore the bleakness of my cell through its opulence? Give me some means of telling time in the absence of sunlight? Perhaps they meant it to help me come to terms with my fate, to grant me a resolve as it counts down to my doom. Actually, you don't really want them to know exactly what time it is at all times, because then they could use guard rotations to... and the time to calculate an escape time. That's a bad idea. A kindness, in other words, laden with enmity. Yeah, I guess one way to grant your resolve is it counts to your doom. Maybe, if you're going to be killed in the next day. Guess it lets you know the exact minute they'll come for you. But that's also why they don't have freaking clocks in jail cells in real life. There's a reason they don't have clocks in jail cells. It's so you don't know when things are happening. You have less control and you feel worse as the uncertainty gnaws at you. Oh well. Or perhaps they had nowhere else to put it. Maybe that's it.
早朝なのか夕方なのかお悩み？
Wondering whether it's day or night?
それも
Now that you
い
mention
さ
it.
さか。
早朝です。影明様がお目覚めになったと聞いてすぐに来てしまいましたけれど、考えてみれば非常識でしたね。
It's 4 in the morning. I came as soon as I heard you'd awoken, but I suppose it's rather early for all this.
このさよめがうかつでございました。港様、無礼をお許しくださいませ。
My fault, sir. I should have considered the hour.
謝罪などご無用に。
All right.
す
I'm
ぐに
glad
来
you
ていた
came
だけ
when
た
you
こと
did.
はありがたく思っております。
Otherwise, I'd still be stewing in my questions. 4 in the morning. I'm surprised so little time passed since I blacked out at the temple. From the dull weight on my head, I could have sworn at least a day had gone by. Perhaps it has, and an extra half day besides. In any case,
タイドの
Captain.
はい、影明様。
初めてお会いしたのはあの村。
The first time we met was the village on the
今は
mountain.
もう存在しない。
ええ、
I remember it well.
あの山の上。
Yes.
あれからまださほどの時は流れておりません。
It feels almost like yesterday.
でも、その間にいろいろとありました。悪代官を相手に立ち回ったり、アーマーレースをめぐる陰謀に介入したり、江ノ島に潜り込んで、でっかい変なのと戦ったり。
The prefect's obsession, the mess at the racetrack, that ridiculous contraption on Enoshima.
はい。
Yep.
どれ一つとっても400字詰め原稿用紙300枚くらいなら埋められそうな事件でございましたな。
Quite a lot of material if you ever thought to write a novel and wanted to make meta references. Yeah.
しかしタイ、
Captain, I don't understand.
自分にはわからないのです。気づけば、
Somewhere, somehow, I
あ
became
な
the
たは
target of
自
your
分
hate.
に悪意を抱いておられた。自分は短い交際の中で、いつ、いかなる理由により、
And for the life of me, I can't imagine why. How in this short time we've
考
known
え
each
て
other
みても、
did I so
その
gravely
謎は解け
offend
ないの
you?
です。
Why, what could it have been?
いいえ、
Is there a reason at
そ
all?
もそも理由はあるのでしょうか。
I'm not so naive as to assume that hate must always be logical. Sometimes people are incompatible, and I would never, not even in jest, claim to be a likable sort. Still.
理由ならありまし
Oh
たよ。
yes, dear, there's a reason.
とてもわかりやす
A
くて、
very simple
とても
reason.
単純な。
それを自分が知らないのはやはりとてつもない失態なのでしょうか。
Then I fear I've done you a disservice by not realizing what I'd done. If indeed I committed an offense against her, it's only compounded by my lack of awareness. I must apologize, even if it changes nothing. But the captain only shakes her head, a terribly elegant gesture.
いいえ、どうかお気になさらないで。
No need to
影
apologize.
明様が
It's
理
only
解してお
natural
ら
you
れない
don't.
のはとても自然なことなのです。
It's only natural you don't understand.
お聞かせ願えるでしょうか。
Would you be so kind as to enlighten me?
もちろん、
Of course. Her smile deepens, Malisonal.
そうするためにお助けしたのですもの。
Why, thank
ぜひに
you.
も聞いていただきま
Tell
す。
you this story. Alright, it's story time. Will this be the story chapter? We got a story chapter in the last round. That was his backstory. Last route, that was his backstory. Will this be story time? Her backstory? Which is actually Minato Kageyaki's middling backstory? Let's see.
少々長い話になってしまいますけど、
This sounds like a backstory chapter.
お構いなく。
Fortunately, I seem to have plenty of time.
今の自分は暇を持て余す身です。
We're attempted humor, but the captain laughs. When she's done, the story begins. Okay, lay it on me. Lay this story on me. In Yamato and warrior society, few clans are more famous than House Otori. Its roots stretch back over 1,000 years, past the Heian court from which so many other legends sprung. Of the famed Shikotan warrior house, Otori alone remains to this day. In centuries past, the Otori clan leaders often commanded the emperor's musha. It didn't change even after the Rikuei-fu was established as the governing body of the warrior elite. Many Rikuei shoguns bore the name Otori, and for a time the position was even passed down exclusively within the clan. Thus, where pedigree is concerned, not even the current ruling house of Yamato Ashikaga can compare. History and the laws of nature teach nothing lasts forever, so what enabled Otori to stand through the ages, even as no other, no less venerable clans fell before time's relentless advance? Okay, so what did? The answer is simple. For hundreds of years, they managed to avoid the infighting that weakened and destroyed their peers, a miraculous tradition of solidarity to be certain, and one that alas came to a close in the early 20th century. In the 30th year of Koryu, Yamato was preparing for war. Though no shots had yet been fired, diplomatic tensions between Yamato and the League of Nations continued to grow as East and West both raced to secure their interests in Han and Southeast Asia. At that time, the leader of the Otori clan, Tokiharu, was opposed to any sort of accord with Europe. A staunch militarist, he advocated force as the only solution, and by and large the nation bent to his will. One exception to this was his younger brother, Tokitsugu, who was also Kane's father. He feared what war with the West might bring and saw his elder sibling's actions as reckless in the extreme. Finally, after all else had failed, he staged a coup for control of the clan. Defeated, Tokiharu passed away imprisoned, and passed away shortly after. It was of course rumored that his brother had hastened his demise, but no concrete evidence of this emerged. As for Tokiharu's young son, the rightful heir to Otori, why, he vanished during the coup, rescued by a loyal vassal and placed in hiding. Having now seized power, Kane's father proceeded to lobby for a less aggressive foreign policy. His efforts met with fierce opposition, however, and did not the least from within his own clan. As it turned out, even those members who'd been his allies didn't appreciate his trampling on 1,000 years of Otori tradition. Facing resistance and sabotage on all possible fronts, Tokitsugu found his agenda impossible to achieve. He fought valiantly, but to no avail, and the clammy hand of fate already had a firm grasp on his shoulder. At the time, one branch of the Otori clan was led by a man who had not been born into the position and adopted into the clan as a child. He earned his place through strength and skill, such that even his youth was no obstacle. This man was Otori Shishiku. Kane's uncle had been his patron. Naturally, he wasn't inclined to forgive Tokitsugu's betrayal. He couldn't, however, rectify it simply by staging a coup of his own. He's only a branch house member, and one who didn't possess Otori blood. For him to take the clan leader's mantle would only compound Tokitsugu's heir. If he were to act, it could only be in service of a legitimate Otori successor, and for the role, he of course first sought his master's missing son. He sent out search parties, scoured the countryside, but years went by with no word of the child, and war was fast approaching, yet Tokitsugu refused to ready his armies for battle. Realizing Tokitsugu would cling to peace even as the first shots fell, GHQ was at last forced to make his move. He struck hard and fast, assassinating Tokitsugu with a group of hand-picked warriors, and installed Tokitsugu's second daughter, Hanae, in his position. Needless to say, Hanae was not at all eager to play puppet to her father's killer, and for his part, GHQ was just as reluctant to have her. As far as he's concerned, she's only a stopgap until her cousin had been found. The Otori clan was GHQ's now. He made ready to throw its full resources into the search. And that was when the war began. Only 6 years later, in the 41st year of Koryu, his search finally bore fruit. It was no coincidence it was also the year which Kanae returned to Yamato. She had been studying in Europe at the time of the coup, but though her home had been stolen from her, the plight of her country and family still weighed heavily on her mind. Through her own sources, she had gathered what news she could regarding Yamato and especially House Otori. So, one of the 4 great generals of Yamato, Rokuhara, who are presently among the worst leaders in the history of the world, and traitors to their own nation, is her enemy. I see. Okay. Through her own sources, she gathered what news she could. Okay. So it happened one day she learned her cousin's whereabouts, and also that GHQ would soon learn the same. Taking advantage of the rank she earned in the military of Habsburg, Kanae had had herself assigned to the Allied Expeditionary Force for Yamato, and thus returned to her homeland as a member of the army which had occupied it. Okay. That was early autumn this year. Okay. Well, that was a quick summary.
ご帰国は父の仇討ちのため。
You came back to avenge your father?
そうですね。その気もないといえば
Not
嘘になり
exactly.
ますけれど、
I would like to make GHQ pay.
シシクへの復讐しかやることがないなら、この国へ戻ることはなかったでしょう。
But if that was my sole motivation, I doubt I would have bothered. Okay.
ヤマトに帰ってきた理由は2つあるのです。
I had 2 reasons for returning to Yamato.
一つはノーブルの血統に連なる者としての責務を果たすため、
First is simple
我
duty.
々は民衆を守る対価として彼らから糧を得ていたのですから。
As one born to a noble house, I have an obligation to protect those who support us with their toil.
ヤマトがかつてない危難の中にあるとき、遠い国からのんきに眺めているわけには参りません。
I'm not willing to watch from afar while other nations.
国民を救うためになすべきをなす義務がありま
She's
す。
still going. I'm not willing to watch from afar while other nations carve off Yamato like a roast on a platter. I gotta do what I can to ensure the best possible future for its people.
まさにまさに。
Well said, mistress. I nod in agreement, though much has changed in modern times. The noble, which is to say warrior class, exists to defend the powerless, and that's their primary value to society throughout history. Although too many noble houses have pursued power for its own sake in the past. Perhaps part of the reason for House Otori's success is that they never forgot this truth.
そしてもう一つ、
The other reason I came
家
back is
族
for
を
my
守
family.
るため。
妹君
Your sister, was
で
it?
すか。
ええ、花江、
Yes, Hana.
私の最後の肉親です。
She's the only one left.
お嬢様とは7つ違いであらせられますな。
7 years apart, was it? A significant gap, I suppose. It must add to her worry.
まあ実際のところあの子のことは割とついでというかかなりどうでもよろしいのですけど。
So honestly, I couldn't be less worried about her.
は、
Sorry?
さようでございますね。お嬢様のご留学前の時点で姉妹喧嘩の勝敗は五分五分に迫っていたと記憶しておりま
Come
す
to think
し。
of it, you two were always at each other's throats. I believe the record stood at about even by the time you left for Habsburg.
とっくみ合いで勝っても最後に落とし穴にはまっているのは私だったりするのよね。
I lost count of the times I beat her at fisticuffs only to wind up falling into some trap or another.
悪辣な策謀に長けた末恐ろしい姫様でございました。
She's a schemer, that one. Sure to make some unlucky gentleman gray in the head one day.
そうそう、私とはもう似ても似つかぬ。
Well, I can only imagine where she got it from.
悪逆な暴力に長けたお嬢様とは嫌になるほど血のつながりを感じさせましたな。一体何の呪いであのお優しい旦那様と奥方様からこんな地獄チック姉妹が生まれたやら。
Given your penchant for wanton cruelty, Mistress, there's no doubt in my mind you two are related. The real question is what curse decreed these devil children be born to such nice parents?
実は橋の下から拾われてきたのでしょう
Perhaps
か。
they found you under a bridge. What a maidservant.
ねえ
All
バ
right.
ンや、前から聞きたかったのだけど、あなた主従関係っていうものを何だと思っていて？
You know, Sayo, I've been meaning to ask, just who do you think pays your bills? I gather the captain's relationship with her sister is complicated.
要するにでございますね。現在は傀儡当主に甘んじているとしても、いつまでもそのままでいるとは到底思えないようなお方でありまして。
The point, sir, is that she's not the kind of young lady who will allow herself to be used as a puppet forever. But this seems tangentially related to everything we were asking for.
ほう。
誰かの助けなどなくとも、あと数年の時間があれば、私淑を排除して名実揃った当主になるでしょうね。
Even without my
さ
help
っ
in a few
き
years,
仇討ちのためなら帰らなかったと言ったのは
you'll
そうい
probably
うことです。
supplant Shishiku and become head of the clan in fact as well as name. That's why I said I wouldn't have returned if revenge were my sole motivation.
私が出しゃばるより妹に任せておいた方がずっとスマートに周りへの迷惑も最小限で片付くんですもの。それが分かっていては何もできません。
Our revenge will go much more smoothly if I leave it in her capable hands. There'll be less collateral damage too, I'm sure.
シシク殿にもその方が辛いでしょうな。花江様は真の残虐さを備えたお方。あっさり殺すよりも生かしておいて延々と苦しめ続ける方法を取られるに違いあ
Shishiku
り
will
ま
wish
せ
it had
ぬ
been you
ゆえ
with your rifle. Lady Hanai is quite adept at tormenting her victims.
そういう妹なんです。だから私が守りたかったのはあの子よりももう一人の方。
Sister's right, so it wasn't her I came back for, it was our cousin.
私と花江のいとこ。
The true heir to House Otori, the one Shishiku was so desperate to find, your cousin? But I thought,
しかし、
from what I heard, it sounded like their uncle was their enemy. Why would she protect his son?
政治的事情だけが人間関係のすべてではございませんよ、
Well,
港様。
politics aren't everything, sir.
ほう。
Of course.
親同士の関係は複雑でしたけれど、子供はまた別だったということです。私も花江もいとこのことはとても好きでした。
Our fathers may have been at odds, but we were children and we didn't care. We loved him, Hanai and I both.
あの小さな男の子を抱っこすると、なんだか幸せな心地になれて。花江もそうだったから、今日はどっちが彼を抱くのかで、また
I've never
喧嘩
felt
に
more
なっ
at
て。
peace than when I cradled him in my arms. Every day we'd fight over whose turn it was to hold him.
花江は言い名付けとして、私は将来の義士として、あの子を飼いなに入れる権利は自分にあるんだと言い張って譲らなかったものです。
They were betrothed, you know, he and Hanai. I was so looking forward to the day he'd call me sister. I believe this'll be, what's his face? Our first protagonist, won't it? The day
そ
he
うで
calls
したか。
I see.
では、
When you speak of
守りた
protecting
かった
him,
というのは、
彼は大鳥一門の遠縁にあたる家庭で平穏に暮らしていました。何も知らず。どう考えても大鳥の当主なんかに祭り上げられるよりそのままの方が幸せでした。
during the coup, one of Uncle's vassals entrusted him to the family of a distant relation. He was raised as any normal child would have been, taught nothing of his heritage. Inheriting the Otori name would have destroyed that life, and it was clear to me where his happiness lay.
それでも彼自身が当主だろうと望むならいい。けれどシシクはきっと彼の自発的意志などに肯定しない。
Perhaps if he had
拒まれ
chosen
れ
that
ば
path for
腕
himself,
ずくで
but
奪う。
Shishiku would not have given him
私は
that choice.
その時彼を救うつもりでした。彼の幸福を守るため。花江が用済みの道具として処分されるのを防ぐため。
Protect
私
his
は
happiness and
そ
my
うしよう
sister.
と思っていた。
Who would have been disposed of once he was found. I pledged to keep him safe.
なのに
And I failed.
何もできなかった。
From the corner of Captain Otori's perfect mouth, a trickle of blood reaches towards her chin. She must have bitten through her lip. From experience, I know the pain is an echo of what it is in her heart.
なぜ
Why?
なぜ
Why?
なぜ
Why,
で
do
す
you
と
ask?
影明様
Listen carefully now,
よろし
dear.
くその男の子
Our cousin.
は私たちが
This
愛し
boy
てい
we
た
loved so
その
dearly.
子は名
His
を
name
夕日
was
と
Yuhi.
いうのです。
おい、そこのクラグラとした悪党
You evil looking eviler. That's the line we're going with? The evil looking evildoer? Our first protagonist, and that's the first line that comes to his mind.
すいません、うまく言葉になんないです。でも俺はリツを探すために何かしたいし、
I mean, they're
そう
giving
す
us
る
a
べきだとも思う
callback.
んです。
I know Yusa was right, but still, I don't believe looking for Ritsu is wrong. I feel like it's something we have to do.
信じるよ。この世には村正っていう名の正義の味方がいるってことを。
I'll believe there's a real hero in this world, and his name's Muramasa.
彼は死んでしまった。ええ、死んでしまったの
He
です。
died suddenly without any warning. I looked away for a moment and he was gone.
私にも花江にもシシクにも全く関係のないところで
Otori's succession had nothing to do with it. He is simply in the wrong place at the wrong time.
それは誰よりも影明様がご存知
You
でし
know
ょう。
that better than anyone,
ね。
don't you, dear?
知らぬはずはありません
And you
な
did, you do. After all, you
村
bear
正
the
殿
curse of Muramasa.
誠に失礼ながらいろいろ調べさせていただきました。何
You'll
よ
have
り
to forgive us. We
江
did
ノ
some
島
digging
で
into the
あな
legends
た様
surrounding
と
that
反
name.
町殿のお話をルサ法にも盗み聞いて
And
し
we
ま
took
い
the
ました。
liberty of listening in on your conversation with that Sorimachi fellow over Enoshima.
悪人を切るたび善人をも切らねば収まらぬとは
A price
難儀
dear
な
Tsurugi
剣をお
demands.
使いでございますな。
そんな剣でも使わなくてはならなかったのですね。
You have no choice,
銀
do
星
you?
号
The only way to
あ
stop
の魔物が
Kinsego,
もたらす災いを止めるために
or so we think.
なんという
Oh,
こ
you
となの
poor
でし
man.
ょ
I
う。
can only imagine what
お
it's
察し
like.
いたします。銀星号の卵を受けた者は切らねばならない。
His
切る
eggs,
他にない。
he infected
放っ
who
てお
spread
けば
Kinsego's
第
madness.
二の銀星号になってしまうのだから。どうに
Sax
も
music is
切るし
back.
かありません。
That was the longest sentence I've seen for 2.5 lines. Damn.
けれど切ればもう一人何の罪も
If
な
you
い
kill
人を
them,
切
you
ら
have
な
to
くて
kill
は
an
ならな
innocent
くなる
too.
それでも無数の人々の命には変えられないだ
You
から
spare them, countless more will die, so you pay the price,
切った
and you kill those you care for.
向こうの人をさぞおつらかったことでしょう
Must be real hard just
苦しかった
murdering
こと
random
でしょう
people. Pale fingers brush my frozen cheek, a lover's touch, a tender and wanting.
けれど
But it doesn't matter.
あなたは夕
Killed
日を
Yuhi,
殺
ending
し
his
た
life.
それが本当にどうしようもなくやむを得ない選択であったとしても
Makes no
あな
difference,
た
you
に
had
救わ
no
れた
choice.
ヤマトの1億の人間すべてがあなたの免罪を認めたとしても
Or that the people of Yamato owe you their lives.
あなたが強いた一つの嘆きにかけて
I'll avenge the future you
私
stole,
は
insignificant.
あなたを許しません
Alright, good luck, Otori. An ardent passion burns in her eyes and I can't look away. And here I'm just thinking, like, you're gonna have to put up some impressive feats to kill Kageaki when he's trying. Alright. Such purpose, she won't be denied no matter who or what stands against her. She'll claim my life, perhaps right here, before I take my next breath. My knees shake, my bowels loosen. I've never felt fear like this. I've never felt fear at all, not truly, not until this moment. I want nothing more than to flee, scream, throw myself at her feet and beg. Would that work? If I abandon pride, honor, and dignity, if I plead and weep and cry, I'm so sorry, would she be moved to forgiveness? Do you really?
はい
Am I really going to?
自分を
おや、どうされましたか、港様。先ほどは平然と、
Come, sir,
な
you're
ぜ自分
stammering.
を殺さなかった、簡単に殺せたはずだ、などとおっしゃられていましたのに。
You had no trouble speaking of the matter when you were questioned by us. When you questioned us before, what's changed?
お声が震えておりますよ。
Could it be you're a coward all
喧
along?
嘩でも剥がれましたかな。
Even the old woman's blatant taunting can't spur me to break the chains binding my tongue. For a time, the only sound in the cell is my breath, heavy and fearful. But at last, I managed to speak the dreadful words.
殺すのですか。
Are you really going to kill me?
あなたは
You know about
ご
Muramasa?
存知だ。
Ginsego, the curse?
村正のこと、銀星号のこと。自分がど
You
うし
know
て
why I
彼
did
を
it?
それら全てを
And
理
knowing that
解
you
して
you still?
許しません。
Yes?
殺し
Still
ます。
demand vengeance?
じ
If I beg?
自分が残りの命の全てを贖罪のために費やすと誓い、
If I throw myself at your feet and swear to spend the rest of my life atoning?
あなたの足元に
Even that?
伏して、
おやおや
My。word, sir. Even then, you'll...
それであなたは
え
Yes,
え、
darling.
決して許しません。
There's no escape from this avenger, no mercy to be found. My crimes will be
不
punished.
本意でしょうね。けれど遊戯だって不本意な最後を受け入れたんですもの。
Must
影
seem
明様も
awfully
我
unfair. But
慢してく
is
だ
it
さら
fair
な
to
い
you,
と。
He, what you did?
当然でございます。
安心なさって。今すぐにとは申しません。銀星号の一件が片付くまでは待って差し上げます。これまで通り協力もいたしましょう。
Don't worry, though. You don't need to worry that your responsibilities might go unfulfilled. I fully intend to see the Ginsego threat ended, and for that I still need your help.
あれは私としても知らぬふりのできない問題。
We'll work together as before
解
to
決
bring that
するに
monster
は
down.
影明様のお力がいります。ですから、それ
Once
が
it's
そ
over,
の
do
次
we
第
understand each other?
よろしくって。もち
Of
ろん
course, I'm not without
抵抗せ
compassion.
ずに死ねなんて無慈悲なことは申しません。あの剣で戦われません。遠慮は無用です。実は影明様ももうご覧なのですけれど、
Feel free to resist with
私
all the
も
power you
剣
possess.
を
As it so happens, I have a Tsurugi of my own. You've already seen it in action, in fact, and... This guy. As my knees hit the floor, I take her hand and lift it to my lowered face. Tears dot her cold white palm, and I can no longer keep them contained.
ありが
Thank
とう。
you. What?
あなたの存在に感謝し
Thank
ま
you
す。
for being here, for being who you are.
あなたがいてくれたことに感謝します。感謝。
Thank you. In her voice, I have heard that every word is true. This woman will never forgive me, and she'll take my life for the wrong I've done. She's perfect, my executioner, my nemesis. She'll give me the fate I deserve. Nita Yuhi will be avenged. I thought justice would be denied, but here it is, like manna from heaven. And thus all is right with the world, and I can ask for nothing more.
大鳥かなえ。
I'm yours, Otori kana.
この港影明の全てを差し出します。
I swear myself to you, body and soul.
何もかもあなたに従いましょう。生も
She
死も
has a shield moment.
全
Yeah.
てあなたの命ずるままに
My life and death are yours to command. I'll obey your will, and when the time's right,
いつなりとこの首に
sink your righteous
裁きの刃。
blade into my heart. The relief is overwhelming. A dark world filled suddenly with light. I'll do my duty, defeat Kinsego, and when the curse demands an innocent life, this woman, this vengeful goddess, will be there to end me? And he's like, life is good. As the man weeps into her palm, Otori Kanai tries to understand. Grief, rage, resignation, all these reactions and more she expected. But not gratitude, not this. What is this, she asked herself. What does this man want? What does this strange man want?
はて、ここでもないか。
Oh, that guy's new. Haven't seen this sprite before. Damnation, where'd she go? That must be Wolf?
どこへ行ってしまったやら、世話のかかるリトルガールだ。
I swear that little girl is a handful.
捕まえたら、パンツ脱がせて陰謀抜くか。
What? What? This time I'll have to take her underpants off and pluck out her short hairs one by one? What?
抜くな抜くな。誰のことか知らんけど。
I don't know who you're talking about, but keep those tweezers to yourself. Oh, okay. Okay.
おやおや、リトルガールを探していて別のリトルガールに出会ってしまったよ。
Well, if it isn't a different little girl than the one I was looking for.
君はいつも寝室鬼没だね。パンツ脱ぐ？
What's with this guy in panties? Oh, you finished Kaguya. Welcome back. How was the last few chapters? And is it over or are you just caught up? I don't know if Kaguya's ended. Fucking loved it. Awesome. Manga of Kaguya. Nice. It's over. Oh, nice. It's ended. And we got a nice ending. A very wholesome one. Okay. Okay, well. I don't think there's any doubt as to how it ends, even from like episode 1. But that doesn't mean it's not going to be a good ending. Good shit, my dude. Glad to hear it. Your appearance is as sudden as ever. Shall we have off with your panties? I don't know what this, we just met this guy, and the first 2 lines he said both had to do with panties.
脱がん。
Hell no.
これだ。人間というやつはどいつも。自分だけが正しいと信じ、あらゆる他人は愚かだと信じ、神を疑い真理を嘲笑う。そしてパンツを脱がないのだ。なぜだ？
This is the problem with humanity. Everyone's certain they alone have the answers. The truth comes from them, not God. That their underpants must remain on. Why, I ask you? Why? This guy seems like the type to go commando just to follow his own philosophy.
いやだからさ、そんなに脱がせたけりゃ自分の脱がせよ。
Take off your own underwear if you want it so badly.
無才男がパンツ脱いで何が楽しい？バカじゃないのか君は。
Never mind. Strip the underpants off a man like me? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
うわ変なとこだけ正気だなおめえ。ぶっちゃけ3回くらい殺したくなったけど、まあいいや今は。
I hate when you make sense. It makes me want to kill you 3 times over, but we'll save that for later.
知らせに来たんだよ。姫は5日後に目覚める。
I'm here to tell you that in 5 days, our princess will rise.
Oh.
Yes, the artist for this is the guy who made Scheherazade and Tesla. So if the art seems familiar, that's who you're thinking of. And yeah, he drew a lot. He drew a lot of fan art for these characters.
確かかね。
Certain
当ての目に狂いはせいぜい180度しかない。
certain as the earth is flat.
では大丈夫だな。
Then we proceed with the plan.
こいつ人のボケはスルーなんだぜ。
That's it.
自分は人に散々突っ込ませてるくせによ。
After reacting to your shitty jokes, you're just gonna leave me hanging?
誰が君の性器に陰茎を挿入したと？
You left your underpants hanging out to dry? Certain as the earth is flat, and there wasn't any response. Oof. Oof.
んなこと言ってね
That's
え
not
よ。
what I said.
うっかり何のひねりもないつまらんツッコミ入れちまった。
Fuck, I did it again. It wasn't even a good comeback.
うるさいぞ。バカか君は。
Wait, are you really this stupid?
待っていじめられてる。いじめられてるよね。
Does this count as abuse? I can sue, right?
で、姫はその時刻に合わせて不堕落城に運び込まれるのかな？
I assume you'll have her brought to Futaraku before she awakens?
ああ
Yeah, it's
その
alright.
辺の手はずはもう整ってる。
やり直しは困難なのだ。間違いは犯してほしくない。
There must be no mistakes. We won't get a second chance.
確かに。
I ask again, are you certain?
確かに
Yep.
パンツは
And your panties, what?
履かせとく。
Dang on.
脱がせ。
Take them off.
嫌だ。
No.
少女の無垢な下半身が見たい。
I must see the unspoiled paradise.
うるせえ。
I'm pretty sure that was shut up, but you know what? Fuck off works too.
そこに誰かいるのか。
Who's there?
ああ、失敬。少々スターライトポエムタイムを楽しんでいたのだよ。
Did I disturb
君
you?
の仕事の邪魔だったかな。
Yeah, Pantsu. This guy's all about Pantsu for some reason. Did I disturb you? You'll have to forgive me. I was just indulging in some poetry by starlight.
申し訳ありません。教授でしたか。
Professor. I apologize, sir. I didn't realize it was you. Told you it was Professor Wolf. We haven't met this guy yet, so it had to be him.
いや、気にせず任務に戻ってくれたまえ。
Not a problem, my good man. You'd best return to your patrol. Sir?
ああ、君。
Just a moment.
はい。
Sir?
パンツ脱いだ少女を持ってないか。ちょっと手持ちを切らしていてね。
Would you happen to have a pantsless girl on you anywhere? I'm fresh out. What?
いえ、
A pantsless...
会いに行くと。
Sir, I'm afraid not.
失礼します。
If you'll excuse me, I'll just continue my patrol. Suddenly, patrolling aimlessly at night seems much more appealing.
君の愚かしい失態でプチピンチであった。気をつけたまえよ。
Your tomfoolery nearly landed us in some hot water.
わかる気もしね
Yeah, my bad.
え。にしてもおめえ英語が達者だよな。大和語もだけどさ、本当にドイツ人か？
Gotta say, your English is pretty good. Same with your Yamatoan. And you say you're German?
ドイツは故郷には違いないがね。そこで暮らした時間より世界を旅して回っていた時間の方が長い。母国など
German-born,
あ
I
っ
see.
てないようなものだ。
But I've spent more years traveling the world than I ever did in the fatherland. I see.
強いて言えば、パンツ脱いだ少女が住まう国こそ我が母国。
Something you... I take it you like this character. If there's a place I can call home, it's the land where pantsless maidens roam wild and free. Is there such a place?
おめえの居場所、地球上にないからな。
And then I'll guess you'll be homeless forever. Too bad.
まあ、現在の国際情勢と僕の専門を鑑みれば、英語と大和語に熟達するのはシンプルな論理的帰結でしかないよ。
You'll ask your neighbors to see if it's a common German thing. In any case, these languages were the obvious choice to study given the political climate and nature of my research.
そっか。
しかし君の能力も便利なものだね。突然現れるのもとっさに隠れるのも自在じゃないか。
By the way, that power of yours, I see it comes in handy when you want to make yourself scarce, as well as when you want to make a sudden entrance.
それ、僕も修行とかすればなんとかなるかな。
I don't suppose it's something I can develop with practice.
さあ、なるんじゃねえの？とりあえず腕立て伏せ1万回からやってみ。
Don't see why not. Start with 10,000 push-ups. We'll go from there.
本当だな。やるぞ。それで身につかなかったらパンツ脱がす。
10,000 push-ups? It's a deal. And if it doesn't work, it's off your panties. Why? This guy.
ああ、ごめんなさい、嘘つきました。あんたやるったら本当にやりそうだし、抵抗するのも無理っぽいから勘弁してください。
Oh, hold it. Sorry, I was like, last thing I need is a guy like you trying to strip me naked for real. Something tells me once you start, there's no stopping you.
仕方ない。今回は士官だけで許してやろう。
This is the thirstiest guy we've had in this series, and we went through the entire novel without seeing him the first time. Alright, very well. Just this once, I'll settle for merely imagining what it looks like beneath your clothes.
やだよ。手箱一斉が絡みついて気持ち悪いよ。
It's like being felt up by an invisible slime ball.
堪能した。
This guy is fucking weird, man.
計画に問題は
The
ない
plan's
わけ
clear
だ
to
ね。
proceed. This visual novel this is like a alternate history. This is an alternate history novel where basically suits of magical power armor have existed throughout history. So so Tsurugi are suits of power armor. Kageaki is a pilot who has his own hidden one. And presently, the world is mostly under the control of England. And they're occupying Japan. So, Mr. Creepy Wolf Guy we've just been introduced to is someone from Germany? Not really clear on who he is. Yes, Glorious Britannia rules most of the world. Like Code Geass, but with slightly more edge. And our protagonist just woke up in his prisoner. The person on the left is one of the leaders of the sort of government, of the government installed by GHQ. Of the Yamatoan government installed by GHQ. The guy on the right is some random professor with the world government, which is GHQ. And we don't know anything about this guy other than that he's like the creepiest person. He is the thirstiest / creepiest person we've met so far, which is weird because he didn't show up at all in the first playthrough. Britain conquering the world, what else is new? Very true. Yeah, the mechs are all based on famous swords and blacksmiths, as the blacksmith has to forge their soul. As before the 20th century, blacksmiths had to forge their soul into it. So, your legendary blacksmith is literally your suit of power armor. Do I read other VNs? I do, but I'm not currently reading any others right now. The last one we finished was Higanbana, the first night. And before that was Umineko? And then I think we did Higurashi. And then was it Danganronpa 3 version 3? Might have been V3 before that. And way back when we did Stay Night. Oh, it was Chaos Child. That's right. Oh, BB wants you to do Umineko. That sounds like a BB thing. Yep. Umineko's pretty solid. I think Ryukishi is a pretty long... You're midway through... Oh, okay. Yeah. Ryukishi, the writer of Umineko, is very verbose and writes a lot. That was I think the main issue I had with Umineko, is that it's really long. I had one other issue that was like story specific as for solving the mystery, but there's some debate for that one, so I'm not gonna like call it out, but you might figure it out. Steins Gate was incredible. I haven't read Steins Gate yet. I did read Chaos Child, which is in the same series as Steins Gate. I didn't read it because I've already seen the anime and I wanted something new. But it's not impossible that I'll read Steins Gate at some point. I'm actually debating reading Beta Morgana next. Robotics Notes is also on the chopping board. Yep. Robotics Notes is also on the chopping board. It's on the block. I have a couple more chill novels. I think I'm still debating doing Magikoi at some point because I did buy a copy of that. And for another mech, actually I was at some point debating Love Love. Might do that. And Sayana Uda. Sayana Uda, maybe? Maybe, but not anytime soon. Honestly, I don't think so. No, it's a good response. Yeah, we got a few things to finish. Because I think someone else wanted to see Higanbana the second night. The OST triggers your anxiety, you won't be playing it. The OST for Umineko is actually pretty good. Umineko has a really good soundtrack. There's some good bangers in there. Alas, half of them only ever play once. You're like, man, this song is freaking awesome. And then it never plays again, and you're just like, Jesus, why'd they do this to me? Star doesn't like the Sayana Uda OST. I actually don't know the Sayana Uda OST, so I can't comment on that one. I can't comment on this one. I know that the opening song for this visual novel, Muramasa, is pretty good. And I think it's had some pretty good... It has... This for whatever reason, has like a nice jazz tune. Or like a nice sax tune that plays sometimes. And a pretty good battle track, too. That said, it doesn't have like a super, super long soundtrack. So it's definitely showed up a few times in a row. Yeah, that sax tune. It's not playing right now. But when it shows up, it hits. It's just nice and chill. And the battle tune is pretty good. I don't have any problems with the loop for the battle tune. It's really nice. Although I don't know if I want to listen to the battle tune by itself. That's a different story. Sometimes it feels out of place. The sax tune or the battle tune? Honestly, I think there's a couple scenes where their music wasn't quite perfect. Like the choice of tune. Maybe limited soundtrack? Who knows? The sax? Yeah. So the plan's clear to proceed? Yeah.
それはむしろこっちが聞きてえとこ。
That's what I want to know.
落とす用意はちゃんとできてんのか？
You sure you can drop it on schedule?
心配いらない。キャノン中佐は動かせる。つまりウィロー少将も動かせるし GHQ も動かせるということだ。
I know just how to manipulate Cannon, and through him, General Willow and the rest of GHQ.
入れ子構造の組織って素敵だね。
Gotta love those nested hierarchies.
偉大なる友キャノン君に幸あれ。
Gotta thank my friend Colonel for that.
彼のためなら僕がパンツ脱いでもいいな。
He's the only man I'd be willing to doff my underpants for. This guy.
やっぱ脱ぐの？
I knew it. Yours are fair game too.
冗談くらい理解してくれないものかね。これだから大和人は無粋だというのだよ。
You need to learn to tell when someone's being facetious. This is why no one invites Yamatoans to parties.
ごめんなさい、国民の皆さん。こんな変態にバカにされてしまいました。
Sorry, all you Yamatoans over there. I just gave this perverted fucking excuse to diss you.
ザ・ガジェットは定められた時刻に合わせて送り出す。あれと姫との開口が我々の求めた道をついに切り開くだろう。
The device will be deployed on schedule. Bring the princess there, and together they'll open the path
ああ、
ゴールデンドーンの
for
た
the
めに。
Golden Dawn.
ゴールデンドーンのために
The Golden Dawn.
どうしワルフ。
The next day finds me bored. Already 30 minutes have passed since the soldiers brought me here from my cell, and there's no sign of the person I'm supposedly here to meet. This Professor Wolf the captain mentioned. I can only assume he enjoys making people wait. The room's decor might be charitably described as chaotic. An African wood mask crowns a tower of old books, which itself sits opposite a pile of racing magazines that rivals it for height. The near wall sports a life-size poster of Oji Misao, the racer. Spotting some graffiti in one corner, I lean closer and it reads in beautiful penmanship. Racers equals pantsless. Wunderbar. Alright. This guy. Alright. A flummoxing annotation indeed. From his title, I assume this professor is an academic, but his study offers no clue as to his field of expertise. And at this point, I'd believe almost anything. I can feel restlessness crawling like an army of ants through my skull. If I don't do something about them soon, they might start to feed on my brain. Would that this room were my own, then I could pass the time however I pleased, or sleep if I could truly find no way to occupy myself. He needs a drop kick? You don't say. I can't take such liberties here, not even though I see half a dozen things I'd like to examine more closely. It's far harder to sit idle surrounded by these oddities than it would be in my empty cell. Though, would the professor have allowed my guards to leave me here if he cared what I might do with his possessions? Perhaps there's nothing in this collection that demands privacy. It's also possible he simply gave it no thought, I suppose. Nearly an hour has passed.
失礼。
Pardon me. Though not without guilt, I pick up the nearest stack of papers. It appears to be a sort of treatise. The title is A Fantasy of Cruxes. Treatise. Treatise. He reads literature. Do I like reading other things or just visual novels? I've read a lot of books, but I'm not reading too many books right now. At least these days. Like I've read a bunch of 40k novels. I have the entirety of The Wheel of Time on my shelf beside The Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, and Silmarillion. I have like the first half of the Malazan Book of the Fallen here. I think I've read a few other books. A handful of Warcraft novels, and of course I read manga a whole bunch. Although usually that's digital. I usually just like right now half the manga I read it's just like I watch the first couple episodes of an anime, check if it has a manga, and read the manga instead. You love books? Yeah, books are nice. I got a few good books. You also used to read a lot of fan fiction back in the day. Oh, that's cool. I haven't honestly read too much fan fiction. Mostly because I just haven't been in the mood or found the right fan fiction. But half the time I read it, it's not for me. It's said, I do like a few classic novels. My classic... Oh yeah, there's Black Prison there too. Oh well. Yeah, I also have a few classic novels sitting on my shelf. I used to read... Let's see, what have I read the most? My favorite books are like The Time Machine and The Hobbit. Oh, and Invisible Man. Can't forget Invisible Man. So, what is a crux? Also, Fantasy of Cruxes. A Fantasy of Cruxes. A treatise, and my thought is, that sounds like a weird fan fiction. Is it possible that this creepy old Mr. Wolf guy just writes fan fiction and is called a professor because he's an expert on fan fiction? I don't think that's true. This seems like a too serious universe for it, but oh man, that title is bait. What's a crux? A crux is a melding of life and metal and exhibits the peculiar qualities of each. As life, it possesses regenerative faculties, human-like intelligence, and can act autonomously when required. At the same time, a crux is undeniably a tool. It exists first and foremost to be used. As long as it's properly stowed, a crux will never die or decay. And of course, a crux grants the warrior who wears it strength beyond that of mortal men. But what is it that separates a crux from a mere suit of armor? From whence does the crux derive its mythical power? Thus far, science failed utterly to answer that question, and there's no way to predict when this might change. Perhaps 100 years hence, the preeminent scholars of the age will still be pounding their fists against this very wall. Perhaps a heretofore unknown genius living like a hermit in the hills of Macedonia will publish the answer in next month's New Science and render our struggle meaningless. It's a Friday for you. Nice. We who live in this age, the most we can do is keep our brain cells grinding towards the distant finish line. The paper is incomplete. Here and there it seems to skip entire sections. For centuries we've studied metallurgy and biology, searching for the key to unlock the ultimate mystery. But I wonder, have we in our zeal to uncover the truth not neglected an area of study? Is there not a third element, one no less vital than metal or flesh? Let me get straight to the point. I'm speaking, of course, of water. Water. All who have studied cruxes know the most important step in the forging process, the holiest of rituals, is that for thousands of years remained cloaked in secrecy, is the quenching. In the final stage of the forging, when the armor is complete, the smith immerses the forge-hot armor and himself in a bath of water. When steam clears and quenching is complete, the human smith has vanished without a trace, leaving only the armor behind. But the armor has ceased to be mere metal, it's become a crux imbued with supernatural might, and all that remains are the finishing touches which the smith's disciples may complete without him. The prevailing consensus among crux scholars is that the water is a conduit for the smith's life essence, the glue by which the smith and armor are joined. But I have a different theory. What if it is the smith, or even the armor, that serves as the conduit, and the water is a vital component to the complete crux? What if the water, not the flesh, is the source of its power? The implications are many and great, but before I delve into them, I suppose I should provide my basis for this theory, that my learned colleagues will not find fault with my methods. Deep beneath the East Eurasian supercontinent lies a massive groundwater reservoir formed eons past when shifting tectonic plates isolated a section that would later become the Pacific Ocean. Figure A is a map of this reservoir and its tributaries overlaid across a map of the globe. I obtained this data via Dr. Haushofer, who assures me it represents the very cutting edge of geological research. Although available technology limits us to approximately 80% accuracy, it's more than sufficient for our purposes. Addendum: according to Dr. Haushofer, distribution of groundwater from East Eurasian reservoir exhibits numerous unusual properties that can't be explained by modern science. He hypothesizes the distribution is due to the presence of anomalies, perhaps gravitational in nature. Figure B divides the regions of the world by when they began to forge cruxes. Figure C divides them by the current rate of crux production. By now, my esteemed readers, the correlation should be obvious, and just so, the earliest regions to develop crux smithing were those closest to the underground reservoir. And while rate of production does not necessarily rise with proximity, we must not ignore the fact it falls to zero in areas untouched by the reservoir or its tributaries. Some of you are likely asking yourselves, what difference does it make? Water is essential to the crux smithing process. It's only natural for water-rich areas to favor crux production. But I ask you friends, bear in mind, not all the Earth's water shares the same source. Africa, Australia, North and South America, these continents are not bereft of water, and yet crux smithing is impossible in these regions. There is some debate whether this has always been the case, but it's another topic entirely. The conclusion is obvious. In order to forge a crux successfully, the water for the quenching must come from the East Eurasian Reservoir. Huh. Interesting. Obviously, this is positing the theory that it's magical water that lets you do this. And the other explanation exists for this divide. The quality of iron is to blame. Some posit or a simple lack of aptitude among the native peoples of these lands. It's true, while water quality has always been important to cruxsmiths, few regard it as the most important factor, and it's not difficult to understand. After all, there's no discernible difference between water they use for quenching and the water they use in everyday life. However, I ask you, can we disciples of modern science, which is yet unable to tell the difference between a crux and a lifeless slab of metal, say our methods are not lacking as it pertains to water as well? It brings me to my hypothesis. I hypothesize the answer we've sought for so long, the key to the mystery that separates armor from crux, lies deep beneath the earth in the East Eurasian Reservoir. I've long believed cruxes are themselves a form of life. They possess intelligence and autonomy, and if limited, and the process by which they convert their pilot's energy, heat to body heat to energy can be likened to that of a human's metabolism. Arcade's no more. Getting new servants were saved. I'm sorry for the people who like Arcade, but I'm glad for myself and everyone else who can't fly to Japan to play a video game in person every single day of the week. I'm aware of the many counter-arguments that what autonomy and intelligence a crux possess exists to serve its master, if, for example, and that cruxes therefore are a kind of machine. I have no intention of refuting these points. It's true cruxes possess machine-like qualities, but those who reject the idea of crux's life inevitably conclude with the following. Cruxes do not reproduce and therefore cannot be alive. Cruxes do not reproduce, it's true, but why leap to the conclusion they cannot therefore be alive? Are you not looking at another possibility? Namely, what if cruxes are the product of reproduction? A flawed, incomplete product, one that, like the Leo pawn, is born sterile. In this case, the method of reproduction is the forging process itself. Okay. No doubt some will argue that true reproduction should not require the active participation of a third party, and I don't intend to argue the point there. The idea of crux's life is merely useful as a rhetorical device and not the core of my thesis. Surely there's some biological entity in nature that requires a third party's involvement to sustain itself. Don't know if that's true or not. After all, if there can be asexual reproduction, if we can have one person involved, just one person by themselves, copying themselves, can we not do that? Could or two people involved reproducing, could not a third person be reasonable? Or some weird host, you could also argue that it's some weird host-like behavior where you give the concept of making another version of yourself to someone, and then they make it, they make someone like you. That could kind of count, right? Using other people as the vessel for which your children will exist is reasonable. That's parasites, right? That's like a parasite, right? They use their host to enable, to facilitate and safeguard their reproduction. Like a parasite? That works. Alright. It's not the core of his thesis. Crux's life. Fair enough. Okay. We'll ignore that question. Now we've come to the penultimate question. If cruxes are the product of reproduction, what are they the offspring of? Metal? Metal is not alive. Man? We already have the means to produce complete offspring. Water? Or to be precise, something in the water. Okay, interesting idea. From a lightless cavern far below East Asia, something comes, creeping through aquifers and underground rivers, until at last, after centuries or millennia, it reaches a natural spring hidden deep in a mountain cave. Perhaps a smith finds this cave, sets to forging a crux, he melts the ore, works the steel, hammering until the shapes rot, but the air is so hot his clothes turn to ash. But the smith lifts his glowing armor and piece by piece sets it against his naked flesh. What? His skin burns, his flesh sizzles, the pain's unimaginable, but it's his purpose and his will no less strong than his steel. At last, when he donned the final piece, the smith leaps into the sacred spring. White-hot metal meets cold water, an explosion of steam fills the cave, and there, in the waters of the spring, something joins with the smith and the armor and from this union a crux is born. If you look to nature for a similar example, I direct your opinion to Ophiocordyceps. Oh, it is cordyceps! Wonderful, the caterpillar fungus. The spores of this fungus infect caterpillar. Oh, don't you love cordyceps? Cordyceps always show up. God damn it. I fucking hate cordyceps. Alright. Alright. The spores of this fungus infect caterpillar larvae, killing and mummifying them, then drawing nutrients from their corpses to produce strange mushrooms. Is this transformation from caterpillar to mushroom not similar to the process by which cruxes are born? To summarize my theory in these terms, I posit that the unidentified factor that determines whether water is suitable for crux smithing is a kind of spore spread by a mushroom lurking in the East Eurasian reservoir. Sensing eyes on me, I look up, but the room is still empty. Did I imagine it? Must have. I turn to the paper. Where'd I leave? A scroll in the corner of the page catches my eye. It's excited penmanship, a stark contrast to the rest of the piece. I believe it's still from the same hand, but the language is different as well. Instead of English and Yamato and hodgepodge that comprises the paper itself, it looks like German. Mein Nachthaber, Crystal Nacht. Great Leader and Crystal Knight. Okay. I had occasion to pick up some German while searching for a cure to my sister's illness. By plumbing the depths of that meager knowledge, I managed to guess what the writer meant to say. I believe it's something like, Great Leader, what happens on the Crystal Knight? Great Leader, that was the common appellation for the head of Das Dritte Reich, the unified German nation which the Allied powers defeated in the war. And then there's the Crystal Knight, but knowing what the words mean isn't enough. There had to be some connection. So deep in thought am I that when I glance away from it and see her standing there, I nearly cry out in surprise. Hello, you're new. Who are you? A crux, perhaps? Or a dwarf? Where on earth did she come from? The room was empty a minute ago. Or was it? Could she have been there all along? Preposterous. The idea might seem, this girl possesses a certain quality that makes it entirely believable. Which is to say, she has no presence, nothing to say I'm here beyond the photons reflected from her body. I've never seen someone who could stand so steady and upright, eyes wide open yet seem so lifeless. Hello? Nothing, not even a blink. A statue? The absurd notion takes root in my brain. Desperate to know for certain, I touch a finger to her cheek. It's soft and warm. She's a person after all. My touch must have triggered something that my voice could not. She finally blinks just once and then lifts her face to me. She stares into my eyes and keeps staring, once more motionless. For some inexplicable reason, I'm reminded of the girl from the racetrack. Why? It makes no sense. All I can do is return her stare in silence. Pantsing. That's the gerund form of panty, right? Oh my god, this guy. I don't believe panty is a verb. I turn and find myself face to face with a tall man in a dapper waistcoat. His enormous beard and wide probing eyes speak to all the vitality that the strange girl lacks. His age is difficult to place, though I wouldn't be surprised if he were younger than he appears. I'm certain he can't be under 40. As I'm about to introduce myself, the man steps past me.
なんだ、ここにいたのか、リトルガール。ま、人生は大概こんなものだな。青い鳥はいつだって自宅にいる。なくした財布は机の引き出しに収まっている。そんなものだ。
I should have known. The bluebird in its cage, the wallet in your pocket. It's always the last place you look.
さあ、部屋に戻りなさい。もう子供は休む時間だよ。トイレを済ませて、歯を磨いてパジャマを着て、パンツは脱いでベッドに入りたまえ。
Now, go back to your room like a good little girl.
最後は大事だぞ。
It's getting late. Time to brush those teeth, put on your pajamas, take off your panties, and get into bed. And don't forget the panties. This guy. Although the girl remains silent, she allows the man to take her hand and guide her toward the back room, and once she's gone, the man turns to me.
僕にはかねてから不思議でならないことがある。
Perhaps you can help with a question that's been puzzling me.
何でしょ
Which question is that?
なぜ人はパンツを履く？
Why do human beings wear underpants?
う。それは哲学に属する問題ですか？
Is that a philosophical question?
そう言っても差し支えない。君は疑問に思ったことはないかね？
Oh
人
my
は
god!
生まれつきパンツを履いていたわけではない。
Kageyaki's gonna humor him all day. Oh my god. In a sense, haven't you wondered? No one emerges from the womb in underpants.
にもか
And
か
yet
わ
we
ら
all
ず
wear them.
誰もがパンツを履く。
As if
ま
it
るで
were
天命
destiny.
のごとくにだ。しかしその一方で誰もがパンツを脱ぐではないか。パンツを履いたまま成功する者がいるか？パンツを履いたまま排便する者がいるか？
Why, I ask? Why, when they must needs be removed, do we have sex in our underpants? Do we relieve
稀
ourselves?
には
Sometimes.
それは背徳行為として
Those
だ
are。perversions!
特殊な思考であることは認めます。
I'll admit it takes an unusual disposition.
正常な人間はパンツを脱ぐのだ。ならば何故最初から脱いでおかない？
Normal people remove their underpants, so I ask you, why put them on in the first place?
履かなければよいではないか。
Why not consign them to the darkness where they belong?
なるほど。
I believe I
趣旨
understand
は
your
理
argument.
解しました。
そうか。
And you agree?
君は、
いいえ、
No.
何？
What? Why not?
パンツを履いておくべきでしょう。
Underpants are necessary.
なぜだ？
Why?
今度は自分からお尋ねしますが、
Allow me to pose a question of my
う
own.
ん。
Proceed.
いい年の男がパンツ履かずに歩いていたら嬉しいですか？
You encounter a man, say about your age, walking down the street with no underpants. What do you do?
君は僕を侮辱する気か？
Are you trying to insult
お
me?
答えください。
Please answer the question.
右手に38口径、左手にパンツを持ってすぐに履けと命令するよ。
I grab my 38 and a pair of underpants and demand he put them on this
な
instant.
るほど。では、そうして男にパンツを履かせるのは楽しいですか？
And would you enjoy making him put on those underpants?
最悪だな。
Not in the slightest.
逆に、女性のパンツを脱がせるのは
Then how do you feel about taking the underpants off women?
人生の喜びだ。
Why, there is no greater joy in life.
そういうことです。
That is the answer.
ん？
誰もがパンツを脱いでいる世界で醜い者にパンツを履かせて回るのと、誰もがパンツを履いた世界で美
What a
しい人のパンツを脱がせて回るのと、どちら
What
が
a
より優れた
conversation.
人生か。
This is so out of left field. Alright, a life spent forcing underpants upon the ugly versus a life spent removing them from the beautiful. Which is more fulfilling?
答えは明々白々でしょう。
I think the answer is apparent.
ほー！
The man is floored by your flawless logic. The man throws back his head and lifts his hands as though welcoming angels.
すんばらしい！完璧だ。
This is such a
なんて
weird
こ
way
った
for this arc to start. It's perfect. Wonderful. Why didn't I see it?
長年の
The
謎
answer
が
at last.
ついに評価した。こんなにも簡単に。あ
The
あ、
answer at last.
ハレルヤー！
At last. Hallelujah.
ハレルヤー！
Alright, my dude.
僕はバカか？
I'm a fool.
かなりの高確率で。
That does seem likely. Though I could say the same for myself, my participation in this debate was reflexive, and now looking back, I have no clue as to its purpose.
しかしね、それでもやはり人はパンツを脱がなくてはならんのさ。
A fool's errand. Even so, the underpants must come off.
は、
I'm sorry.
正気を隠すのは羞恥心の証。羞恥心は知恵の源泉だ。
Hide our genitals because we're ashamed, and shame derives from knowledge.
この小賢しい知恵というやつが我々を神のマス果てから遠ざける。
It's still going. This knowledge, this petty wisdom has driven us from God's embrace.
これがある限り人は神に許されない。いくら神を求めても届かない。
We must forsake shame, or we'll never be forgiven. Our love will never reach.
神を目指す
To
者
seek
は
God,
裸であるべきだ。
one must first be naked. Alright.
何もかも捨て去って祈る。さすれば神は昇り来た。
Divest yourself of every burden and pray. Do this, and God will rise. Abruptly, the man strides around his desk and takes a seat in the old leather chair, and then motions for me to sit across. Why do religious nut jobs and bad horniness go hand in hand? I don't know, but this guy is probably the strangest person we've met in this series so far. He's out of line, but he's right. Oh my god, you guys.
Minato Kageaki くんだね。
Minato Kageaki, I presume?
はい。
And you are?
ウォルフだ。
Wolf, everyone calls him.
皆にはプロフェッサーウォルフと呼ばれている。
As I assume, this is the man who sent Captain Otori to retrieve me.
大学で教鞭を取られているのですか？
You teach, Professor?
確かにそんな時代もあったが、今は違うよ。
Not anymore.
けれど司令部の要請に応じて大和語の講義なんかをしているのでね、ここでは。それでみんな教授と呼んでくれるのだろう。
But I do speak Yamatoan, so from time to time command gives me asks me to give lessons on the base. I suppose that's how I got the moniker.
先ほどから感銘を受けておりましたが、実に流暢な大和語です。
I'm
あ
sure
な
they
たへ
mean
の
it as
敬
a
意
mark
は
of
正当
respect.
なものでしょう。
Your Yamatoan is excellent.
ありがとう。
Thanks.
だがね、僕が大和語の扱いに慣れているのは別に奇跡ではなく、ごくごく当然のことだよ。
But before you attribute it to some kind of miracle, I should point out it's only natural for me to have mastered your
と
language.
言われると。
Why is that?
簡単な話さ。何しろ、
Oh,
大和といえばパンツの国。
simple. Yamato is the land of panties. Oh my god.
いえ、
No. My home is no such
違
thing.
った。何しろ大和といえばパンツ履かない
I'm
国。
sorry. Because Yamato is the land of no panties. Ah.
まあ、
Well, he's like, Akagiaki's like, yeah, well, I suppose that was true until the modern era.
違った。何しろ大和といえば
No, that's
剣
not
の
it either.
国。
Oh yes, it's because Yamato is the land of Tsurugi. How he confused Tsurugi for panties, I don't want to know. So Tsurugi, if his interest lies there, his field of expertise is likely engineering. Archaeology is a possibility, or perhaps even...
フォルクロアだよ。
Huh?
フォルクロアだよ。
It says Volkskin, but he says Volkuro. Alright. Volkskind, he intones, as if responding to my thoughts. I don't know what Volkskind is, though.
フォルクロー。
Volkskin? Folklore.
フォルクロー。
フォルクロアだよ。
Ah, folklore, if I'm not mistaken. There we go. I look again at the room around me.
なるほど。
It explains a great deal. The paper I read must be his work as well.
大和を無視して人類文化における剣の意味を解き明かそうなんて笑い草だろう。
He studies folklore. Alright, what is the role of Tsurugi in the grand scheme of human civilization? Why, one cannot hope to answer this question without studying the Yamatoan example.
外国の方にそう言っていただけるのは、大和人として喜ばしいことです。
The Yamatoan, I'm honored you would say that.
ああ、君たちは誇るべき文化を持っているよ。この狭い島国の中でよくぞこうまで独自の技術を発展させたも
Yes,
の
you have
だ。
something to be proud of here. This small island birthed a tradition unique in all the world.
その点において君たちは全欧州国家を合わせてより優秀であったかもしれない。
Craft that even all the nations of Europe combined can't surpass.
恐縮です。しかし、我々は産業革命という大偉業を成し遂げることも、
It was the
そ
nations
の
of
流れか
Europe
ら
following
剣の
it.
量産技術を開拓することも、独力では果たせませんでした。
It was the nations of Europe which, following the Industrial Revolution, developed the means of mass producing Tsurugi. We could never have accomplished that on our own.
では一長一短としておこうか。だがね、僕個人はあくまで大和の優秀性を評価する。
True, we may be proud of our people's accomplishments, but for me it's Yamato upon which I must place my laurel.
いや、期待していると言
Or
った
perhaps
方
I
が
should
い
say
い
my hope.
な。
Your
そ
hope,
れ
sir?
は
僕の望みを君たちが叶えてくれるのではないかという期待だよ。
I hope you will lead me to answers I seek. Is it my imagination? I feel like he's no longer speaking of Yamatoans as a whole.
さて、要件を済ませてしまおうかな。
Now, perhaps we should get down to business.
要件。
君を呼び出した要件だよ、もちろ
For the
ん。
reason I called you here, of course. Of course, the professor must have many demands on his time. He wouldn't have summoned me unless he wanted something.
現在、自分は捕虜としてまずまず妥当な扱いを受けていると考えております。
You've treated me with hospitality above and
積極
beyond
的に敵対する意図は有しておりません。
that to a prisoner. I don't, at present, consider myself your enemy.
教授のご要望が自分、あるいは自分の関係者に著しい不利益をもたらすものでないか
Is this guy interested in
可能
Ginseo?
な
Does
範囲で
Ginseo
伝
can
承
copy
いたしま
itself?
しょう。
That's probably why he's interested. As long as doing so will not greatly compromise my interests or those of my associates, I'm happy to be of service.
まあそんな大げさな話じゃない。
Pleased to hear it, though these formalities are hardly necessary.
簡単な用事でね。すぐに済む。
My task for you is simple. It'll take but a moment. I
Oh.
see.
君は健康か？
Tell me, are you healthy?
はい。おおむね身体機能に支障はありません。
Yes, I have no complaints regarding my health.
明日の朝になってみたら、うっかりぽっくり言っていたりしないかね？
Not about to drop dead overnight?
ま
I
ず
don't believe
大
that's
丈夫か
likely.
と。
No? Okay.
ならよい。用事は済んだ。もう実質に戻ってくれて構わないよ。
Good, we're done here. You can return to headquarters. Your quarters.
君をここまで連れてきた兵士が外で待っている。
The guard outside will take you.
要件とは
Is that
これだけなのですか？
all? I assume he's testing something like Muramasa's ability to heal him? Yes.
あなたは大鳥大尉にも自分を殺さず連れてくるよう願われたとか。
I was told you asked Captain Otori to bring me in alive?
自分の神明を気遣われるのです。
Why was that important to you?
よろしければ
May I
お教
request
え
an
いただ
explanation?
きたい。
すでに教えたよ。
I already gave you one.
君たちには期待している。
I have high
さっ
hopes, do
き
you
そう
remember?
言っただろう。君の未来にグリューネドラヘの羽音が響かんこと。
And you may know the sound of the green dragon's wings. Life as a solitary prisoner is mostly comprised of boredom, loneliness, and claustrophobia. I suspect this qualifies as a universal truth. It's also a universal truth that no military goes to the trouble of keeping prisoners without good reason. Captain Otori's personal vendetta aside, GHQ must see some value in me beyond that of a caged pet. I'd expect them to make at least some overture, but days have gone by without so much as a whisper. At this point, I'd welcome just about any distraction.
ご一緒に散歩でもいかが？
Would you like to go for a walk?
喜んでお供します。
I
Toy.
would, thank you. Wherever the Anglo-Saxon goes, it's said they bring their civilization with them. One might argue the same could be said for the Chinese. For every city with a large Chinese population, it will also have a Chinatown, but they're merely surrounding themselves with the familiar, making a home, a place to live and work. These patches of Chinese civilization are ultimately static. Not so for the Anglo-Saxon. Their civilization expands without limit, either militarily, through conquest and assimilation, or economically, through media and trade. Though the peaceful methods are no less forceful, sooner or later every city in their influence comes to resemble London. Thus the British Empire covers, as maps go, only half the world, but its cultural borders extend that much further. Yamato too is included within those borders. 100 years have passed since the isolationist Tokugawa shogunate fell, and now you can see automobiles on the streets and travel the length of Honshu by train. There are unsurprisingly those who fear that what this means for Yamatoan culture and industry, such as General Ishima of the Left Palace Guard, who published the treatise titled simply High Treason. But the great majority of Yamato's people accepted the change, even welcoming it, in a sense aiding and abetting the invasion of their homeland. It's difficult to blame them. As a whole, the Anglo-Saxon race is pragmatic. They excel at maximizing efficiency and convenience, at building faster conveyances, stronger machines. Their civilization therefore comes with many benefits. In the crudest meaning of the word possible, they're indeed the superior race, and they know it. They believe with all their hearts that their way is the best for us all. The rise of the Anglo-Saxon imperialism was, I think, only a matter of time.
見事な軍事拠点です。おそらく不堕落城よりも総合的な機能においては
It's an
勝るの
impressive
ではありますまいか。
base. I wouldn't be surprised if it proved more defensible than Futaraki.
大和古来の軍学に基づく築城ではどう工夫してもここまで効率的な構造にはなりません。
There's only so much one can do
ど
with
うしたとこ
classical
ろで
Yamato and fortress
各所に
design.
細かい無駄が現れます。
Inefficiencies are sadly unavoidable.
六原が総力で当たっても果たしてこの基地を攻め落とせるかどうか。
By comparison, I suspect Rokuharu's full
と
strength
に
would
か
have
くまず
trouble taking this
横
base,
須賀と分断しないことには。
at least without first cutting it off from Yokosuka.
そうですね。
Quite. And thus my attempts at small talk have netted me only a half-hearted response. I wonder if she's surprised by my willingness to pass comment on my captors. But no, a quick look at her face tells me she simply isn't listening.
態度
Captain,
もしや
are you ill? Sorry?
あ、はい。私もそう思いましたよ。
I think you're right.
やはりならばご自愛ください。確かに無料を囲つ自分にはありがたいお誘いでしたが、
Well, I appreciate
態
the
度に
opportunity
その
to
よ
get
う
out
な
of
無理まで
myself
していただくには及び
and
ま
not
せん。
have you risk your health for my sake. My health? What? She was not listening at all, was she? She was not listening.
すぐに戻りましょう。
Just go back.
念
Perhaps
のため、
Nakakura could have the base doctor meet us.
まあまあ港様、
A moment.
そう慌てなくとも大丈夫でございますよ。
Situation's hardly so dire.
しかし
But the captain,
お嬢様、港様はお嬢様が心ここにあらぬ体でおられたのをご心配なさったのです。
Mistress, the good officer's wondering why you seem so out of sorts.
それでお体の不調を問われたのですが、何か健康に思わしからぬところでも？
Perhaps something wrong with your health?
いえ、申し訳ありません、影明様。私、この通りピンピンしておりましてよ。
I'm so sorry, dear. As you can see, I'm quite well.
本当ですか。
Are you certain?
もう、どこもかしこもビンビンで困っちゃいます。影明様、ご覧になりたいの？
Yes, in fact, I'm almost too healthy. Would you like to see proof?
いやん、こんなところで。
You dog.
何を見せる気なんでしょうね、この地上は。
What grotesqueries are you planning to visit on this poor man now?
そうですか。
Well, as
なら
long
よろ
as
しい
you're
のです。
feeling
安藤
alright.
態度。あなたは自分にとってもかけがえのないお人です。
You mean a great deal to me, Captain. Please don't
お
forget
体
that.
は大切にしてください。
ええ。
Alright. I told you you'd like Captain Otori?
健康はともかく、なんだか妙に調子が出ないご様子ですね、お嬢様。
Off the side, you do seem a little off your game today, mistress.
そんなことはなくてよ。私はいつも通り。
Don't be silly. I was right, it's right.
あまりそうは見えませぬ
That
が、
twitch at the corner of your mouth?
気のせいです。
You're
し
imagining.
かし現在の時刻は3時、風向きは北北西、大気中の電波濃度は 63% でございますよ。
Still, I should
普
note
段
that
のお
it
嬢
is...
様なら直ちに会長のごとき規制を上げ、マイムマイムを踊り出されるはず。
Still, I should note that it's 3 of the clock with a northwesterly wind and a 63% saturation of EM radiation in the atmosphere. Usually you'd be screeching like a falcon and performing the Mayam Mayam now.
分かってます。ちょっとお待ちなさい。時刻よーし、風向きよーし、電波よーし。
Well, of course, just a moment. Time, wind, radiation. All good. Something's wrong.
変だ。
Very wrong. I don't know what, but something has dealt a heavy blow to the captain's higher functions. He reminds me of a novelist who spent a sleepless week finishing her manuscript. And unfortunately, it doesn't look as though my concern will have any impact.
まあそのうち回復なさいま
She'll
しょう。
snap out of it sooner or later.
は
Hope
そ
so.
れはさておき、港様。ウォルフ教授に会われたとか。
Changing the topic, sir. We heard you met with Professor Wolf?
はい。
Yes,
部屋に
briefly.
招かれ短時間ですが面談を。
Yeah, he invited me to his study. She's always horny. She's so horny she summoned lightning through sheer thirst. Correct.
どのようなお話をされましたかな。
May I ask what you
無論
discussed?
差し障りのない範囲でお答えいただければ結構でございますよ。
Assuming it wasn't private?
そうですね。
I don't believe it was. Let's see. The most.
とりあえず
Oh no.
印象が強かったのは
The thing I remember most vividly
パンツという単語が会話中にやたらと出てきたことでしょうか。
is how often underpants were mentioned during our conversation.
聞く方に差し障りのあるお話だったようで。
It sounds like perhaps it should be kept private.
失礼。
I apologize.
いいえ、あの教授はいつもそんなんですから。 一体どんな歪んだ生い立ちを過ごされたのかは存じませんが、とにかくパンツに異様な執着心を抱かれているらしく。
So that's quite alright. The whole base knows about the professor's panty fixation. Every time he opens his mouth, it's panties this, panties that.
口を開けばパンツパンツと。
Honestly, what kind of childhood did he?
ジェジュ殿、
I beg
僕
pardon.
は
あの方はパンツに執着しているのではありません。パンツを脱がすことに執着しているのです。
I feel it's necessary to point out it's not a panty fixation, but a fixation with the removal thereof. I curl my fingers into a righteous fist.
これは全く意味も意義も異なることです。
You must understand the two
混
could
同
not
され
be
て
more
はいけま
different.
せん。
はあ。
You don't say.
例えるなら、見延達吉先生を逆賊呼ばわりするようなもの。
Conflate them is like calling Minobe Tatsukichi a traitor.
何をおっしゃりたいのかさっぱりわかりませんが、多分その例えは適切ではないですぞ。
I haven't the foggiest what you're
し
trying to
か
say.
し港様もなんだか調子がおかしゅうございますね。
But I know that
お
analogy
嬢
isn't
様とは
appropriate.
別方向に。
Is it just me, or are you a little out of sorts yourself?
そうでしょうか。
Of sorts? Perhaps you're right.
そうかもしれません。
I look up into a cloudless sky. Obviously, the sight's beautiful, but I feel as if ages have passed since I was last able to appreciate that beauty. I come to a stop, and ahead are approximately a dozen people gathered on the parade ground. It's readily apparent, however, they're not here for a parade. Men are expressionless, almost eerily so, though for all but one I can tell this is the product of stoic resolve. For the last, despair seems a more likely cause. When I catch sight of him, his wrists are bound, but as I watch, one of the others uncuffs him and ties him to a pole set in the ground. Ah, rip, he's dead. And here I realize what I'm witnessing. After the man's secured and blindfolded, the soldiers spread out to form a line facing him. An officer steps forward and says something in a low, solemn voice. The soldiers lift their rifles and take aim at the man. The officers give the order. It's over in a blink.
コブデン中佐です。
Oh, that was Colonel Cobden. I turn to the captain who's standing beside me, her eyes fixed on the dead man's body.
大尉、
Captain, did you...
罪状は収賄、通謀、そして反乱。
The charges were bribery, conspiracy, and treason.
反乱？
Treason?
横須賀の事故のことは覚えておられます？
You recall the accident at Yokosuka Naval
お
Base?
う、はい。
Yes. You mentioned it on the phone.
確か。事故というのは表向きの発
You
表に
mentioned
す
it
る。
wasn't an accident. Did you mean to say
ええ、それが反乱でしたの。
it was treason?
今は
Who's
亡
doing?
きコブデン中佐の起こした。いえ、
I should say the prince is
正
doing.
確には毎度の宮殿下が起こさせた。
I'm sorry? The prince? He's responsible for what happened at Yokosuka?
大尉殿、それ
Captain,
は
I
一体
don't
どういう？
understand.
お知りになりたい？
Do you need to?
はい。
Yeah.
この件についてはもう何もかも終わってしまったことですのよ。
Even though with Cobden's death, the matter's finally settled?
それでも
Please.
わかりました。
As you
お
wish.
話ししましょう。
As I recall, they were planting a bomb. Planning on blowing up the whole base? Yeah?
では、こういうことなのですか？情勢の急変に焦った宮殿下と所長が不祥事で横須賀に左遷されていた進駐軍将校を買収、
So to summarize,
軍港の破壊を企み、
the prince and the commissioner, fearing GHQ's response to the shogun's death, bribed a disgraced GHQ officer to sabotage Yokosuka naval base?
それに失敗。事態は露見し、県庁寺へ GHQ の制裁措置を招くに至ったと。
This failed, and when the prince's involvement came to light, a punitive mission was dispatched to Kenshoji Temple, and hence the call I received from you that evening.
ええ、そんなところです。
Is it hard to believe?
信じられませんか？
No.
信じざるを得
Sorry
ない
to
よ
say
う
it's
です。
not. Before I couldn't imagine why GHQ would attack the prince, but now it's all too clear. How could this happen? Who's to blame, the prince and the commissioner, for their hasty decision? They were prudent men. They wouldn't have taken rash measures had circumstances not forced it upon them. But at the same time, one couldn't argue it was their fault for letting circumstances skew their path. And if it was their fault, then what about that? My father, did he simply pay the price for his machinations? Is that the meaning I should take from his death? Perhaps I should accept it. Logically, I must. But I can't. From deep inside, from a place where logic can't reach, something rises. It's That's not the shield hero? That armor, I've seen it before as a schoolboy in a textbook on European history. It's a photograph of William Tell, the masterwork crux named for the great archer of Swiss legend, who was also its first pilot. Okay. Legend says that none could escape his bolt and that he proved his skill by shooting an apple from the head of his own son. The Tsurugi I saw in that photo was a perfect match for the knight who killed my father. And yet that was not William Tell, but a fake, a copy. For all that its resemblance was flawless, the Tsurugi possessed something the original armor did not. Arrogance, the sort of venal pride that says, not only have I copied greatness, but I have made it better. I could see at a glance the smith who forged it was utterly confident in its superiority, and because of that it carried no grace, no majesty, and nothing to awe or inspire. The Tsurugi was hollow, and that Tsurugi killed my father. Captain Otori is right, the matter is settled, there's nothing to be gained by pursuing it further. But I can't let it go.
そういえば、影明様?
Darling, I've been meaning to ask.
Oh.
How can I help you, Captain?
あの日は私の電話から随分と時間が経った後で参られたようですけれど、何かございましたの?
The day of the attack, you took quite some time reaching the temple after I called. Did something delay you?
はい。結果として、大尉のご忠告を無にしてしまいました。
Actually, yes, I apologize after you went to the trouble of warning me. Whether she sincerely meant it as a warning is irrelevant. The fact that she gave me the chance to help them and I squandered it. Or, if not for that Musha's interference.
大尉殿。
Captain?
はい?
Yeah?
悪魔じみた姿の巨大な武者に
Are you familiar with
心
the
当たり
giant
はありま
Tsurugi?
せんか?
Twice normal size, forged to resemble a demon?
悪魔じみた?
A demon?
はい。
I don't know how else to describe it.
さあ、進駐軍内の騎士の方々はもちろんいろいろななりの剣をお持ちですけど、
There are some unusual Tsurugi on the base.
悪魔っぽいというのはあまり正規軍に属する騎士の趣味ではなさそうですし。
Doesn't sound like something a proper knight would pilot.
確かに。
True. Even if there were a knight with such odd tastes, I doubt his peers would approve, and soldiers don't look kindly on those who break from the pack. So it wasn't a GHQ operative, but the timing?
そんな悪趣味ソルジャーとどこぞで出くわされたのですか、港様は。
And where did you encounter this sanguinary soldier?
はい。
On my way to
あの
Kenshoji.
時、
ほう。
襲われ、
They attacked without warning.
不覚を取りました。
I grimaced, the bitter taste
あ
still
の
fresh.
武者を手早く退けていれば、父を救えたかもしれない。
If I'd handled the situation more effectively, I might have saved my father's life. Your father?
父?
はい。県庁寺で所長が殺害されたことはご存知ありません
Oh,
か?
you're aware the commissioner was murdered during the attack on Kenshoji Temple?
あ、
Oh,
はい。
yes, I heard.
いえ、知っていますけれど。
鎌倉所長の菊池昭隆殿ですな。あの方のご遺体は確認し
Kikuchi's
てお
body
りま
was
す。
found at the scene.
そう、あれが自分の養父です。
He's my father,
多大
adopted
な
but
恩を
still.
受けました。
I owe him more than I could ever have repaid.
しかし、姓が違うようですが。
Can I ask why your names are different?
事情あって、港家からは籍を抜いていたのです。
You separated
そ
from
れ
the
以降、
Minato family some
婿
time
入り
ago.
する前の旧姓を、
Kikuchi was his name
菊池の
before
姓を
marriage. I
養
see.
さようで。
自分が大尉のご忠告を生かし、すぐに駆けつけていれば、
If I'd made better use of your warning, perhaps I could have been there
守
and
れたか
stopped
も
the
しれ
night.
ません。あの騎士、
Night. A thought sears my brain like a bolt of lightning. That knight had to be GHQ. Surely the captain knows who it is. Ask them, get the fiend's name. No. Learn the Musha's identity then, and then what? Hunt him down and take revenge? If I do that, what will happen to the captain? He brought me onto this base, and if I break free and murder an officer, a noble as well, possess a blood crux, whose name she gave me, the captain's Yamato, and will anyone speak in her defense? Oh, I can't do that. That would be an unspeakable betrayal, and that means I'm powerless to avenge my father's death.
あの
Word.
騎士。
How dare you murder someone during the
ゴールデ
military?
ント
Kill someone during a
そ
military
れが
operation?
作戦名か
Golden Dawn, that's the name of the plan? It might be. It might very well be. But I don't think we're going to find out too much about that tonight.